Hi, I'm Amy, and today we're unpacking Obsession, a psychological horror story about a lonely man who wishes for love and discovers that affection without freedom becomes a nightmare. Before we get too far into Bear and Nikki's disturbing story, please support the channel by subscribing, liking this video, and turning on notifications so you don't miss future movie summary. Now, let's begin. Bear is a vulnerable young man trying to find the courage to tell his longtime friend Nikki how he feels. His confession is sincere, but so intense that his friends can already sense the danger hiding inside the romance. Bear has quietly built his entire emotional world around one person. Bear's friends turn his private longing into a comic rehearsal and encourage him to wait for the right moment. Their advice sounds harmless, yet the film makes time itself feel ominous. Soon afterward, Bear finds his cat Sandy dead after getting into pills. He is devastated. The confidence he was trying to build disappears, and he breaks down sobbing beside the animal he loved. The scene matters because Bear's loneliness is not abstract. His grief is immediate, helpless, and painfully human, leaving him even more vulnerable to the promise of an impossible shortcut. Still shaken by Sandy's death, Bear goes shopping for a replacement crystal necklace for a friend. Inside a strange little shop, he finds the One Wish willow, sold with the casual indifference of a cheap novelty. The clerk treats supernatural catastrophe like an annoying customer service problem. That contrast is one of the movie's sharpest ideas. Magic does not arrive through an ancient ritual. It comes in retail packaging, surrounded by warnings that desperate people are ready to ignore. That evening, Bear joins Nikki and their friends for trivia, and later he walks her home. Nikki says she wants to quit her job and become a writer. She dreams of creating a love story, not a simple romance, but something deeper. The intimacy between them feels genuine, and Nikki gives Bear a clear opening to confess his feelings. But he panics, hides behind a teasing nickname, and retreats into friendship. Nikki opens the door emotionally. Bear fails to step through it, and his humiliation pushes him toward a supernatural shortcut. Alone in his car, Bear breaks the willow. He could wish for courage, honesty, healing, or even a fair chance to be loved. Instead, he wishes for control over Nikki's answer. He wants her to love him more than anyone else in the world. That distinction matters. Bear does not ask for mutual love. He asks to overwrite another person's will, and the precise selfishness of that wish condemns them both. The wish takes effect without a dramatic transformation. Nikki simply becomes a few degrees wrong. She reverses small details, repeats herself, laughs at moments that are not funny, and suddenly cannot tolerate being away from Bear. Her emotions seem to arrive before the thoughts that should cause them. When she invites him inside and then climbs into his car, Bear watches his fantasy come true. Yet even in the first moments of success, his expression suggests he understands that something essential inside Nikki has disappeared. Bear takes Nikki home, and the two quickly slide into a relationship. For a while, their happiness almost looks convincing. They joke, flirt, and settle into the small rhythms of a new couple. Nikki gives Bear her mother's tiger's eye stone, saying it represents confidence and willpower. Then she declares that she loves him more than anyone in the world. Bear recognizes the exact language of his wish. What should be a tender moment suddenly feels like evidence at a crime scene. When Bear questions one of Nikki's stories about her father, she admits it was false and immediately collapses into panic and rage. Her behavior switches between devoted lover, frightened child, and attacking force. Later, Bear wakes to find her watching him sleep while wearing his sweater because it smells like him. She is devastated that his love cannot equal hers. Violent flashes and nightmare imagery transform emotional codependency into bodily terror, as though the curse is grinding both of them down from the inside. The next morning, Bear discovers that Nikki cut his hair while he slept. She apologizes, packs his lunch, and behaves as if a violated boundary can be repaired with domestic kindness. At work, Bear's friends recognize what he refuses to face. Ian learns that Nikki lied about her father and warns Bear that this sudden infatuation does not resemble the woman they knew. Their concern is rational and ordinary. Bear's denial is more troubling because he is frightened by the wish, but he is still enjoying what it gives him. Bear finally calls the number printed on the One Wish Willow package. He asks whether Nikki's love is real and whether the wish can be changed. The answer is delivered with cold indifference. Because Bear chose this love for her, it now defines her reality. The wish cannot simply be canceled, and its control will remain tied to Bear's life. By framing the curse as terrible customer service, the film makes the supernatural feel absurd, bureaucratic, and impossible to escape. Bear tries to spend an evening away from Nikki, but she follows him to a party. During a drinking game, she reads from her own writing. The story describes violent, forbidden love brought into existence by a willow branch. It sounds less like fiction than the wish speaking through her. Although the room is filled with friends, Nikki appears isolated, as if she is broadcasting from a different reality. Her abandoned dream of becoming a writer has been consumed by the obsession Bear forced into her mind. After Nikki's jealousy erupts in front of everyone, Bear asks for one night apart. She insists that she cannot tolerate space and promises to become anything he wants. Bear begs her to act like the Nikki he remembers. For a few seconds, she appears to fight the command inside her, struggling to claim that she can still be herself. The scene becomes tragic because the original Nikki seems trapped behind the devotion Bear ordered, aware enough to suffer, but not free enough to escape. Later, a quieter version of Nikki surfaces while the obsessive presence is sleeping. She begs Bear to end her life, but he cannot do it. Soon, Sarah warns him about Nikki and grows emotionally closer to him. Nikki responds by murdering Sarah. After the killing, she tells Bear they will dispose of the body together and insists the death is his fault. It is manipulation, but it also contains the movie's moral truth. Bear did not choose this particular murder, yet he did choose to erase Nikki's freedom. Bear returns to the shop, desperate to reverse the wish. He learns that another person might be able to make a contradictory wish, or that his own death could end the spell. Bear begs Ian to help. But when Ian sees proof that the magic is real, he chooses himself and wishes for $1 billion. The moment is darkly funny and deeply cruel. Bear's selfishness is not unique. Unlimited power simply exposes what each person values when no ordinary consequence appears strong enough to stop them. Back at the house, Nikki is covered in blood, rigid and barely recognizable. Her screams can switch into childlike tenderness without warning. Bear tells her he loves her, but the words no longer function as a confession. They are a survival command. Nikki calms and demands that he make their relationship work. The image of a dead body near the embracing couple forces romance and horror into the same frame. Their relationship now survives only through fear, coercion, and denial. Bear locks himself in the bathroom and swallows a bottle of pills, trying to create the only distance the wish seems to permit. When he returns, Nikki calmly suggests that they break up and take some space. Their roles and identities begin to blur, and the emotional confrontation becomes increasingly unstable. Then the overdose takes hold. His body fails, he collapses, and he dies from the pills he swallowed. Nikki is left on the couch in stunned silence, covered in blood, beside the man whose wish destroyed both of them. Obsession is more than a warning to be careful what you wish for. It is a horror story about consent, entitlement, and the terror of affection that cannot say no. Bear is both victim and perpetrator. Nikki becomes lover, threat, prisoner, and fractured self. By keeping comedy, tenderness, and brutality dangerously close together, the filmmakers turn a familiar wish-for-love premise into something deeply unsettling. I'm Amy, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this summary, remember to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications for the next story.